Welcome to another journey with the Pashas, from their more collective to more personal expressions. In this episode, we discuss the evolving frequencies of Earth, perceptions of time, relationships, and inner transformation. To the Pashas, can we discuss this energy I'm experiencing, difficulty sleeping, and the very rapid perception of time? We are moving into tumultuous energies, roller coaster ride. Difficult to maintain the structure, yes, but you find your way around it. The feeling of energy is also directly connected to your growing excitement. You wonder which came first. It matters not, it is both. So clearly this makes sleep difficult, as you have experienced many times in the past. As for the perceived speeding up of time, when you step into a different frequency, time changes relative to that frequency. Take traveling at the speed of light as an extreme example. Can you explain how that functions? It is multifaceted. You would think that if one were higher awareness, things would appear slower to them, but it's actually the opposite much of the time, because since they are processing data more rapidly, time for them simply moves more rapidly. This is also why time flies when you're having fun, for the person has moved into a higher frequency, or when you're being creative, in flow. It's when you have a very low vibration that time seems to drag, because your processing of information slows to a crawl. However, if one is sufficiently advanced enough in their understanding of inner and outer time, they may choose to directly influence their perception of time to slow it down as needed, when very high detail work is required. Is this sufficient explanation? It does give me quite a bit to go off of, thank you. I especially connect with the time flies when you're having fun connection, now understanding the direct connection to a shift up in frequency. It's interesting sometimes the push-pull feeling of outside influences upon timeline schedules and decision-making. As I've just experienced in the last couple days with my mom coming back, a friend coming over tomorrow, the mapping out of stays, travel times, and locations. There's the part of me that simply wants to focus on my own projects and schedule, but I also realize that there is no time limit or pressure for that, and that these things being seemingly interjected take precedence are more timely and important. What are your experiences like in a way that you can relate? Making time for others brings us great excitement. These events are opportunities that we cannot manifest on our own, for the participation of the other is required. This is why we honor time spent with you in this way. Because we will always have enough time to do the personal, singular things that we like to do. Not that one can or should seek to be constantly in the presence of others, but when others come to you, making oneself available is indeed in alignment. There can be times when relationships wear their welcome and need to be released, however. You say you hope you don't do that to us. Well, the neat thing is, since we're here via an energetic connection, we may leave at any time we choose. Even more helpful is that we can vary the amount of energy being put towards an interaction, a connection. Multitasking in a way, or simply managing our energy. Maybe having a nice little nap at the same time. I can't get away with quite the same approach in this reality. Perhaps not, and so time spent with others can at times feel more tedious. But this is also a process of finding compatibility with others, seeking and finding the souls that you most align and work the best with. This isn't always about similarity. Often it's the opposites who can make for good partnerships. I do feel Drake and I to be opposite in some manners. You have felt frustration from this at times, but it's this challenging of each other's beliefs and thought processes that leads to growth. If you automatically agreed on everything, neither of you would be gaining any fresh perspectives or learning. This nutshell gives quite a different perspective to what a perfect relationship is. I caught on you were about to say I. Can I ask more specifically who? Jetty? That came through more clearly that time. Are you like my representative? Maybe. It doesn't always have to be me, but this is indeed an aspect to the personality, meaning two things: personality of the relationship. I felt a bit of Leonid energy from you just now. Perhaps. You're saying that just because I feel similar to yourself in that way? Though, are you sure you can really differentiate between felines? Well, I feel like different feline species would have different personalities. Can't say exactly why it is that I would suppose that. Maybe I do, in fact, know it at an internal level. When I was discussing the Black Panther, I alluded to liking his personality, of which did indeed directly have to do with him being a Black Panther. Yes, indeed different species and races would have different personalities. What would you like to tell me about yourself, Jetty? I began to feel immersed in his energy over my whole body. Nearly a minute of sublime bliss. A truer way of sharing one's energy where words cannot suffice. I'm curious, did you, or who I was talking to last night, feel my oversoul, Ryan, when he connected with me? We do feel the incoming energies when they are present. We know Ryan, of course. You can imagine that if you and I are talking, us Pashas must have a much more developed connection with him, as of course would be a prerequisite to you and I talking at all. Wow, I just feel so good right now. The brilliance of this blessed life. I just love how magical it all is becoming. I feel that this is what I strive to share with the world. We would say, don't strive, radiate. And yes, I will use the term we, particularly when it is common to our collective consciousness. I do like radiating. The biggest thing I've learned from the Pashas so far. I'm curious, what is your species? What are the Pashas like now that you have transitioned to energy beings? I read early in the first book describing different roles, different groups that had each their own specialty. This remains true, that there are those that specialize in different things. If not, we would all be having the same experience. But there is indeed much variety and character to each of us. In a way, not having a physical body to maintain gives us greater freedom to explore our unique expressions and desires. Is there an example about yourself that you would like to give? You are a fan of personal sharing and emotion, intimacy and friendship, you say, because friendship is magic, right? Well, I specialize in communication with Earthlings. I do indeed enjoy connecting with my fellow lions. The emotion you feel now is shared, that's why it is amplified. Picture two sine waves when their peaks and troughs line up. They gain a higher amplitude. In this way, emotions can either be amplified or diffused, but because they are energy in motion, those expressions and feelings only last at that level for a brief time, as a rolling wave in an ocean of energy. What are the subjects I most enjoy talking about? Then you want me to ask you some questions to balance things out. My hesitation is that with anything I share, it is required that you possess a matching component of understanding that can take place, a pre-existing familiarity with that subject, which is why it is easier when you ask a question you are already thinking about and have considered different aspects of the subject. This is also another difficulty with sharing off the cuff to an as of yet unknown audience. But you're curious if I were to ask you a question. What brings you the greatest joy? Sharing in an unhindered way, love, playfulness, happiness, not holding back. You're wondering if I consider my own communication or sharing to be filtered. Well, yes it is, in various ways. For instance, everything that we are sharing is passing through your own language filter. Less so that feeling I shared with you earlier, but of anything that is being recorded as words and symbols, this is so. Beyond the language filter, there is also a concept filter, though you wonder, does it matter for so long as the words can be communicated? Well, see, you can give yourself more credit not just for typing the words, but also the sentences. The thought forms we express need to be able to come across as well as full, coherent thoughts. This is why those being channeled will say that the channeler doesn't have a sufficient scientific or mathematical understanding, etc., to relay a certain concept. So this can indeed be improved by one's own study, and that is the value in reading. Reading can be equally valuable to introducing new concepts as channeling and is often a bit more practical, at least in your current reality. There comes a point where that ceases to be the case. And even the example you think of being shown concepts when under the influence of psychoactive drugs, that does not always make the connection with your sober self, your resting vibration. Of course, the use of any drug is not sustainable either. Not sustainably positive, anyways. Another question for you. What do you think would open you up more fully to love? Wow, that's a tough one. I quickly think about past experiences, both here and perhaps from the other life where I was hurt. Hurt quite overtly by a certain tigress. Hurt to have lost connection with the best friend. The latter has happened many times indeed. And so these things weigh on me. But then, on some level, I know that grieving in this way actually keeps me in that same state of loss. Almost like I'm strengthening it, prolonging it, keeping myself from finding new expressions of love and friendship. Quite a loaded thing, really. Certainly makes me wonder about the influence my own grieving has had on what otherwise might be forward progress. Jetty, what advice can you give me on this? Well, yesterday morning you were walked through letting go of a certain egoic armor, which at first felt quite scary, leaving you naked, but you felt much lighter after. It's much the same here. So what do you need to let go of? Past connections that are no longer relevant, for starters. But how do I know who is and who isn't? For instance, I would give Tehanen the same advice, but as it happened, he was actually able to reconnect most fully with his long-lost lover. He is in a different reality where it was possible, and much more will become possible upon your exit of this matrix. But will I exit this matrix upon the death of the body, this life being complete? Or will the matrix here dissolve before that? Consider that in order for the matrix to dissolve, its lessons must first be learned. For remember, that is why you are here. It is up to each one to move beyond at their own speed, own pace, own choosing. We were reflecting yesterday how the speed with which you've made progress these last few years has been of your own choosing. This is true, of course, for more than the last 3 years, but this offers a specifically understood example. And similarly, you are being currently tested with letting go of many physical possessions. No, we aren't saying to get rid of everything. The lesson is in the navigation, the self-guided and not so self-guided, higher guidance connection decision making, attunement following grace. Making space is a concept that we could connect. As you let go of material possessions, you make space for new material but also new energy. Consider with your personal relationships the concept of making space. This can be done by letting go of old contacts and relationships that don't serve you anymore. We suggest going through your phone contacts and clearing out anyone you don't remember or know you would not attempt to contact. Another example is with email. When you don't have too many emails flooding in, you can take more seriously those that do. This is perhaps a reason to stay off of social media platforms if one wishes to make more interpersonal connections, opening up your capacity for such. But your capacity can also be expanded by simply making socializing a higher priority in general. You're considering this contact in this way now, a high priority. It's these exciting things that I like to wake up for. So excited I couldn't go to sleep in the first place. Eventually it will settle into a happy alignment. I find it interesting that standing up just now I naturally rose to the balls of my feet, light, tall, and balanced. You are indeed letting go of that which has weighed you down and caused imbalances. Can I grow my tail back? In a way, astral tail will be interesting when it can exert a perceived force, no? Oh, and an astral fur coat to keep me warm. We appreciate that you have thought about this concept where if your astral form could simply slow the movement of passing air, you would be therefore more insulated. Yes, it's like I can rationalize how something like that could work in this reality without a perceived breakage of the rules, or at least an effect subtle enough to be permissible. You are indeed onto something with that line of thinking. Dream big. I was going to ask if our two worlds could be connected, but you're saying they already are, and this is what I am experiencing now. Touché. I suppose this is as good a point as any to wrap things up. Could I ask for a big hug with nuzzles? Thank you for the love that you share. I am learning. Lionheart. Start the recording process. This isn't always about similarity. Garbage truck, garbage truck, does whatever a garbage truck does. Goes bazonga. And there it all goes. There was like hardly anything in that dumpster. Empty campground. I'm actually gonna get rid of that part. Oh, now this is Jetty. So I gotta think, what does Jetty sound like? Okay, let's see. Jetty. Grand Rising. Would you like to do some voice acting with me? So like come through what comes through?